Hey everyone, how's it going? HKUHD here, and welcome to another video. Today's video will be looking at the differences between the iPhone 13 and the iPhone 13 Pro. So if you're looking to buy one of the new iPhones, then hopefully this will help you decide which one to buy. I think the first question you should ask yourself is, do you really need a new phone? There seems to be this illusion that everyone is upgrading their phones once a year, but that is definitely not the case. So let's start with one of the most important things, and that's the cost. The iPhone 13 starts from $799 or £779, and the iPhone 13 Pro starts from $999 or £949, and increases depending on the amount of storage you need. They both come in 128GB, 256GB, and 512GB, but the iPhone 13 Pro comes in 1TB as well. So unless you need a 1TB iPhone, then there's no difference, and if you're on a budget, then the iPhone 13 is the better option. Speaking of options, there are a variety of colors available to each model. So the iPhone 13 comes in Starlight, Midnight, Blue, Pink, and Product Red. And the 13 Pro comes in Graphite, Gold, Silver, and Sierra Blue. I am not sure how much this will matter to people, as the majority of people will slap a case on the phone. If you're brave enough to rock the phone caseless, then the textured matte finish on the iPhone 13 Pros feel really good. Next, let's talk about the design. So we get a smaller notch on both phones, which means you'll get some more screen real estate. There's no real difference in design between the two, other than the telephoto lens, significantly larger cameras, and LiDAR sensor on the iPhone 13 Pros. So some of you may be interested how it feels to hold. And when comparing the phones, you notice the iPhone 13 Pro weighs more, about 30 grams more than the iPhone 13. It may not sound like much, but you can definitely notice it. When comparing the feel of the phones, I actually prefer the iPhone 13 over the 13 Pro. If the weight of the phone is a big deal, I would suggest to see them in person and hold them for yourself. So to summarize, I like the weight and feel of the iPhone 13. The color doesn't matter too much to me as there are options I like on both. The textured matte finish on the iPhone 13 Pro is great, but I rock a case and don't get to appreciate it all that often. So next we have the display. So the screen size on the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro are the same, with the 6.1-inch display. They both have the Super Retina XDR OLED display, but the difference comes in the brightness, with the 13 hitting 800 nits of typical peak brightness, similar to last year's iPhone 12 Pro, whilst the 13 Pro are now able to hit 1000 nits. Both phones can hit 1200 nits in HDR, so if you're in really bright environments, then it may be worth keeping in mind. The big differences between the two is the Pro has a ProMotion display with adaptive refresh rates up to 120Hz. It's definitely a feature that helps the Pros stand alone. I think the majority of people wouldn't really notice, and the iPhone 13 still does a good job of keeping things smooth. The smoothness of the adaptive screen may not be its best feature. I will come on to that later. Next we have the cameras. Both the iPhones have good cameras, but there are noticeable differences between the 13 and the 13 Pro. The 13 has a new sensor in its main camera to capture more light. Sensor shift optimization has been included on the iPhone 13 models. It was often reserved for the Pro Max models in the past, and this helps with movement and stabilization. The 13 Pro gets similar upgrades but with wider apertures on the main and ultra-wide camera to let in more light. You also get a telephoto lens useful for those close-up shots. So this gives you an optical zoom of 3 times and a digital zoom of 15 times. From a software perspective, both have the photographic styles, but on the iPhone 13 Pro you get the ability to take really close shots and get into the details with macro photography. The 13 Pro no doubt have the better cameras. It comes down to if this is worth the extra money for the lens and advanced features, and if you use them or not. Next we have video. And both the iPhones can record at 4K 60 frames per second. The video cameras on the new iPhones are solid and one of the best mobile devices out there for recording video. We do get a new cinematic mode for capturing video to give your videos a sense of depth. In simple terms, it's like portrait mode for video. The only limitation is that it only shoots in 1080p at 30 frames per second. Aside from the telephoto lens and the ability to record in macro mode on the 13 Pro, the Pro has the ability to shoot in ProRes, a high-quality lossless video compression format. It's useful for those who want more control of editing their videos. I guess this is where that 1TB storage comes in handy. So if you use your iPhone video camera a lot and want the best quality available, then you should go with the Pro. But if you are more casual, then the 13 is still a good option. Moving on to performance. Both the 13 and 13 Pro come with an A15 Bionic Chip, but the 13 has a 4-core GPU compared to the 5 on the 13 Pro model. Day-to-day use, you may not really notice a difference between the two, but there are tests out there which showcase a difference. If you are big on mobile gaming, then you may want to stretch for the Pro. Otherwise, you wouldn't really notice too much of a difference other than comparing the benchmark scores. Another thing to mention is if you have a ton of apps open and never close them, then the Pro models will be able to keep more open with its 6GB of RAM versus the 4GB on the standard 13. It is rare that you may find an app that has closed because you have hit the RAM limits on the 13. For general usage, both will absolutely power through tasks with no problem. If you are more of a power user using more intense applications, then the Pro may suit your needs. Finally, we have the battery. Both the iPhones come with a battery boost. Apple never reveals the capacity of its batteries, but from teardown videos, the iPhone 13 has a physically larger battery. But the best battery is available on the Pro, and that comes down to the efficiency of the ProMotion display. So being able to adapt the refresh rate of the screen to as low as 10Hz on the Pro models instead of having a fixed 60Hz on the 13 makes a big difference. Imagine the battery life on the 13 Pros if Apple had used the same size battery. If you want the best battery life on an iPhone, then the Pro models would be useful. If you're not doing intense tasks with your phone, then the 13 will easily last you a day, maybe even longer. Okay, so here are my final thoughts. So let's break it down. I would recommend the iPhone 13 if you're on a budget. You prefer the colors of the iPhone 13 over the 13 Pro. You haven't used a display with ProMotion and aren't too bothered about it. And you're looking for a solid camera and video setup. But don't take too many photos or videos in low light situations. 13 Pro, I would recommend it to those who want the best iPhone you can buy. So if you're after the best cameras, performance, display, then the Pro would be the best option. If you're after a phone with a solid battery life, then the Pro edges the regular 13. If you're going to use the camera a lot, as you get better shots in low light situations, you also get access to the telephoto lens, macro photography, and ProRes video. If you are looking to keep your phone for a few years, then I would recommend the iPhone 13 Pro, as I believe this is more future-proof. My one concern with the iPhone 13 Pro is Apple will likely have to upgrade the port to improve the transfer speeds of ProRes footage. Overall, I would recommend to consider your own use cases and budget. It may be worth prioritizing what important features you are looking for and choosing a model based on that. Okay, so that's the end of the video, and I hope you found it useful. If you got value from this video, then drop a like and comment which phone you got and the main reason for it. If you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.